Marcus Chen adjusted his thick-rimmed glasses and glanced at the clock on the lecture hall wall. Quantum Physics 401 was supposed to be the most challenging course at MIT, yet he had finished the midterm exam in 37 minutes. The other students were still frantically scribbling equations, their faces twisted in concentration and mild panic. Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne noticed Marcus sitting calmly at his desk, hands folded, staring out the window. She had grown accustomed to this sight over the past 3 years. The 19-year-old had entered MIT at 16, graduating summa cum laude from Harvard at 15. Now pursuing his third doctorate simultaneously in quantum physics, theoretical mathematics, and xenobiology, Marcus was what the faculty politely called exceptional. What they didn't know was that Agent Sarah Rodriguez of the FBI's Anomalous Individuals Division had been watching Marcus through high-powered binoculars from the building across the street for the past 8 months. Marcus stood up, placed his completed exam on Dr. Hawthorne's desk, and walked out of the lecture hall. His movements were precise, calculated, like someone who had mapped every step in advance. Several students looked up from their papers with expressions ranging from admiration to pure frustration. "Same time tomorrow, Dr. Hawthorne," Marcus said with a polite nod as he passed her desk. Dr. Hawthorne glanced at his exam. The first equation made her stomach drop. Marcus hadn't just solved the quantum tunneling problem she had posed. He had identified and corrected a fundamental error in her methodology that she hadn't even realized existed. His solution suggested theoretical applications that could revolutionize faster-than-light travel. This wasn't the first time. 6 blocks away, Agent Rodriguez spoke into her earpiece. "Subject is mobile, heading northeast on Massachusetts Avenue. Recommend maintaining distance." "Copy that, Rodriguez. Any unusual behavior today?" "Negative. Standard pattern. Finished exam in under 40 minutes, showed no signs of stress. Kid's either the smartest human alive or—" She paused, unwilling to voice the alternative that kept her superiors awake at night. The FBI's interest in Marcus Chen had begun 18 months earlier when their monitoring algorithms detected an anomaly. Someone had been asking very specific questions on deep web academic forums. Questions about faster-than-light communication, dimensional physics, and something called substrate consciousness transfer. The questions were sophisticated enough to suggest doctoral-level expertise, yet they came from an IP address registered to a 17-year-old college student. Further investigation revealed Marcus's academic record, perfect scores on every standardized test he had ever taken, a childhood marked by solving complex mathematical proofs instead of playing video games, patents filed for 3 revolutionary computer algorithms before his 18th birthday, and most concerning, a paper he had submitted to the Journal of Theoretical Physics that had been immediately classified by the Department of Defense. Marcus walked into his favorite coffee shop, a small place called Quantum Cafe that catered to MIT's graduate students. The barista, Jenny, had his order ready before he reached the counter. "Double espresso, no sugar with that weird protein powder you bring," she said with a smile. "You're like clockwork, Marcus." "Thank you, Jenny. How's your organic chemistry class progressing?" Jenny blushed slightly. Marcus always remembered personal details about everyone he met, which had initially charmed his classmates until they realized he never forgot anything. Ever. Student conversations, professor comments, overhead phone calls. Marcus filed away every piece of information with photographic precision. "Still struggling with stereochemistry," Jenny admitted. "Those 3D molecular structures just don't click for me." Marcus reached into his backpack and pulled out a hand-drawn diagram. "Try thinking about it this way. Imagine each atom as a specific colored ball. The bonds between them are rigid sticks with fixed angles. Now, instead of trying to visualize the entire molecule, focus on how each ball connects to its neighbors." Jenny stared at the diagram. In 30 seconds, Marcus had explained stereochemistry more clearly than her professor had in 3 weeks. "You should be teaching this class instead of Dr. Peterson," she said. "Dr. Peterson has excellent pedagogical instincts. He simply approaches complex concepts from a traditional academic framework that assumes students learn through repetition rather than pattern recognition." Jenny blinked. "Right. Well, thanks for this." Marcus nodded and found his usual table in the back corner, where he could observe the entire cafe while remaining partially hidden. He opened his laptop and began working on what appeared to be homework, but was actually something far more complex. Agent Rodriguez watched through the cafe window as Marcus typed with inhuman speed. Her surveillance equipment could detect the electromagnetic signatures from his laptop, but every attempt to hack into his system had failed. Marcus used encryption protocols that the FBI's best cryptographers couldn't crack. More disturbing, analysis suggested he had invented these protocols himself. "Rodriguez to command. Subject is engaging in typical computer activity. Encryption remains impenetrable. Any indication of external communication? Negative. Whatever he's working on appears to be local files only." What Rodriguez couldn't see was the content of Marcus's work. He was designing something he called the possibility matrix, a theoretical framework for predicting probable outcomes across multiple dimensional variants. The mathematics involved concepts that wouldn't be discovered by mainstream science for another 50 years. Marcus had been working on the matrix since he was 14, triggered by a recurring dream that felt more like a memory. In the dream, he stood in a vast space filled with floating equations that pulsed with their own light. Voices spoke to him in languages he didn't recognize, but somehow understood. They told him about humanity's future, about choices that would determine whether his species joined a galactic community or remained isolated forever. The dreams had stopped when he turned 18. But they left him with knowledge that he couldn't explain, and abilities that went beyond normal human intelligence. Marcus suspected he wasn't entirely human, though genetic tests showed no anomalies. Whatever he was, he had decided to use his gifts to prepare humanity for what he had seen in those dreams. Dr. Hawthorne burst into the cafe, scanning the room until she spotted Marcus. She approached his table with his exam paper clutched in her hand. "Mr. Chen, I need to speak with you about your test." Marcus looked up calmly. "Did I make an error?" "Quite the opposite. This solution—" She sat down across from him, lowering her voice. "Marcus, this could change everything we know about quantum mechanics. Where did you learn to manipulate dimensional constants like this?" It seemed like the logical approach to the problem you presented. Logical? "Marcus, this math suggests theoretical possibilities that could enable instantaneous communication across galactic distances. Do you understand what you've written here?" Marcus met her eyes steadily. "Yes, Dr. Hawthorne. I understand exactly what I've written." Something in his tone made her lean back slightly. For the first time since she had known Marcus, Dr. Hawthorne felt like she was looking at someone far older and more experienced than his 19 years suggested. "Marcus, I think you should speak with some colleagues of mine, people who work on projects that require special clearance. I appreciate the suggestion, Dr. Hawthorne, but I'm not ready for that kind of attention yet." Yet. The word hung in the air between them. Agent Rodriguez watched the conversation through her binoculars, noting the professor's body language. Hawthorne looked excited and nervous, the way scientists looked when they stumbled onto something revolutionary. Rodriguez activated her phone's recording function, though she knew she wouldn't be able to hear their conversation from this distance. After Dr. Hawthorne left, Marcus continued working for another hour. He made 17 minor calculations that would eventually lead to humanity's first successful faster-than-light engine. He designed a communication protocol that could establish contact with non-human intelligence, and he outlined a defensive strategy that would protect Earth from the territorial conflicts that dominated the galaxy beyond their solar system. None of this appeared to require significant mental effort. Marcus worked with the casual efficiency of someone solving simple arithmetic problems. As evening approached, Marcus packed his laptop and walked to his apartment, a modest place near campus that he shared with two graduate students who spent most of their time in the lab. Agent Rodriguez followed at a distance, noting his route and timing as she had every day for months. What Rodriguez didn't notice was the small device Marcus had built into his backpack, a scanner capable of detecting surveillance equipment within a 3-block radius. Marcus had known about the FBI's interest since their second day of observation. He had been allowing them to watch him, curious to see how long it would take them to realize what they were dealing with. In his apartment, Marcus opened a secure communication channel that existed in a quantum state between dimensions. A voice responded in a language that sounded like mathematics given form. Progress report, Observer Chen. Humanity remains on schedule. Their scientific development is accelerating as predicted. The governmental oversight is manageable. And your integration status? Complete. They perceive me as an exceptional human rather than an advanced scout. My recommendations remain unchanged. Humanity is ready for contact, but first contact protocol requires careful management. Understood. Continue observation. The Council awaits your final assessment. The communication ended, leaving Marcus alone with knowledge that would terrify most humans and fascinate others. He was the advanced scout for a galactic civilization that had been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for humanity to reach the technological threshold necessary for membership in the larger community of intelligent species. But Marcus had discovered something his superiors didn't expect. Humanity wasn't just ready for contact. They possessed capabilities that could revolutionize galactic civilization. The dreams he had experienced were memories of possible futures, and in every future where humanity joined the galaxy, they became leaders rather than followers. The FBI was watching him because they sensed something extraordinary. They were right, but they had no idea how extraordinary. Marcus wasn't just the smartest human alive. He was preparing to transform humanity into something the galaxy had never seen before. As he prepared for sleep, Marcus reviewed his plans. Tomorrow, he would submit another paper that would push human science another step forward. Next week, he would allow Dr. Hawthorne to introduce him to her government contacts. And within 6 months, if his calculations were correct, humanity would receive their first official contact from beyond the stars. The FBI could continue watching. Soon, they would have much more important things to monitor than one exceptional college student. They would be monitoring humanity's first steps into a larger universe, guided by someone who looked human but thought on a galactic scale. Marcus fell asleep planning humanity's future among the stars, while Agent Rodriguez filed another report describing the activities of an unusual but seemingly harmless overachiever. Neither of them realized that tomorrow would begin a series of events that would change both of their lives forever. The emergency meeting at FBI headquarters began at 3:47 a.m., 43 minutes after the Arecibo radio telescope detected something that shouldn't exist. Agent Sarah Rodriguez sat in a conference room filled with people she had never seen before, individuals with security clearances that apparently trumped everything she thought she knew about government hierarchy. Agent Rodriguez, Director James Mitchell began, his face grim in the fluorescent lighting. Your surveillance subject just became a matter of national security. On the main screen, a series of radio frequency patterns scrolled past. To most people, they would look like random noise. But Rodriguez recognized something in the mathematical structure that made her stomach clench. These signals, Director Mitchell continued, match theoretical communication protocols that Marcus Chen outlined in a classified paper he submitted 8 months ago, a paper that suggested the possibility of faster-than-light communication using dimensional quantum entanglement. Dr. Lisa Wang, the FBI's chief cryptographer, leaned forward. Agent Rodriguez, we need to know everything about Chen's daily activities. Every conversation, every equation, every person he's contacted. Because either he's in communication with whoever sent this signal, or he predicted it, Rodriguez finished. Which might be worse. The implications hung heavy in the air. If Marcus Chen was receiving alien communications, he was potentially a security threat. If he had predicted alien contact through pure theoretical calculation, he represented something else entirely, a level of human intelligence that bordered on the supernatural. There's more, Dr. Wong added, pulling up another screen. Computer analysis suggests these signals aren't random transmissions. They're responses. Someone on Earth has been transmitting to the source of these signals for approximately 18 months. Rodriguez felt pieces clicking into place. 18 months. That's when we first detected Chen's anomalous internet activity. Meanwhile, 20 miles away in his apartment, Marcus Chen was having what would be his final normal conversation with his galactic contacts. The quantum communication channel hummed with urgency. Observer Chen, we detect primitive monitoring of our communications. Your species has identified our signals. Confirmed. Their radio telescopes detected the quantum overflow from our last transmission. The governmental security apparatus is investigating. This accelerates our timeline significantly. Are you prepared for early contact? Marcus paused, considering the weight of what was about to happen. Humanity is ready, but their leadership will resist. I recommend implementing Protocol 7. Protocol 7 requires your exposure as a non-human entity. Are you prepared for that consequence? I've been preparing for this moment since I arrived. Initiate early contact sequence. The communication ended, and Marcus stood up, moving to his window. In exactly 47 minutes, humanity would witness something that would forever change their understanding of their place in the universe. And the FBI agents watching him would finally understand what they had been observing. Back at FBI headquarters, Agent Rodriguez was reviewing 18 months of surveillance footage at triple speed when something caught her eye. She stopped the playback and enhanced a section from 3 months earlier. Marcus was sitting in Quantum Cafe, but instead of typing on his laptop, he was perfectly still, eyes closed for exactly 7 minutes and 33 seconds. Dr. Wang, look at this. Chen appears to be in some kind of meditative state. But watch his finger movements. They zoomed in on Marcus's hands. His fingers were moving in precise patterns against the table surface, as if he was typing on an invisible keyboard. Run finger movement analysis, Dr. Wang commanded. The computer processed the movements and displayed results that made everyone in the room go silent. Marcus's finger patterns matched the exact frequency signatures of the alien transmissions they had detected. He's not using a computer, Rodriguez whispered. He's transmitting directly. Director Mitchell grabbed his secure phone. This is Mitchell. I need a full tactical team at the Chen residence immediately. Consider the subject potentially hostile. At that moment, every radio telescope on Earth began receiving the same signal simultaneously. Not from a distant star, but from something in high Earth orbit that had apparently been there all along, invisible to human detection methods. The message was broadcast in 17 human languages, but it began with a mathematical sequence that any scientist would recognize. The same sequence that Marcus Chen had been working on in Quantum Cafe for the past 6 months. People of Earth, the message began. We are the Galactic Cooperative, a union of intelligent species dedicated to mutual advancement and peaceful coexistence. You have reached the technological threshold necessary for membership in our community. We extend an invitation to join us among the stars. Every major news network interrupted their programming. Government phone lines crashed. Stock markets around the world suspended trading. And in Washington, D.C., a room full of FBI agents stared at a surveillance screen showing Marcus Chen standing calmly at his apartment window, apparently unsurprised by the most significant moment in human history. This is Rodriguez. Subject shows no signs of surprise or alarm at the global broadcast. Repeat, Chen is displaying no reaction to first contact. Dr. Hawthorne was in her office when the broadcast began. As the alien message played, she pulled out Marcus's latest exam paper and began reading it with new eyes. Every equation, every theoretical framework, every innovation that had seemed impossibly advanced, suddenly made terrible sense. The paper wasn't the work of a gifted student. It was a preparation guide for first contact. Her hands shaking, she called Marcus's phone. "Hello, Dr. Hawthorne. I assume you have questions about the broadcast." "Marcus," she began, then stopped, unsure how to voice her suspicions. "I am not entirely what I appear to be," Marcus said gently, "but I am not your enemy. I've spent 3 years at MIT because I needed to understand humanity's educational systems, social structures, and capacity for adaptation. My assessment is overwhelmingly positive." "What are you?" "I am what your species will become, given time and proper guidance. The beings who sent tonight's message are my colleagues, not my superiors. We've been waiting for humanity to develop sufficient technology to join the galactic community." Through her office window, Dr. Hawthorne could see crowds gathering on the MIT campus, students and faculty standing in small groups, all staring at their phones as news updates flooded social media. "The FBI is watching you," she said. "Yes. Agent Rodriguez and her team have been quite professional. I've allowed them to observe because I wanted your government to have some advanced knowledge of my presence when this moment arrived." Before Dr. Hawthorne could respond, her office door burst open. Agent Rodriguez entered, flanked by tactical officers in full gear. "Dr. Hawthorne, step away from the phone. We're taking Marcus Chen into custody." "Agent Rodriguez," Marcus's voice came clearly through the phone speaker, "I recommend against that course of action. I'm prepared to cooperate fully, but hostile actions toward me will be interpreted as hostile actions toward the Galactic Cooperative." Rodriguez hesitated. Through her earpiece, she could hear chaotic chatter from command as every intelligence agency in the world tried to process the night's events. "Chen, this is Agent Rodriguez. I need you to surrender yourself for questioning. I'll meet you in the MIT Physics Building, Dr. Hawthorne's office, in 20 minutes. Come alone, and we can discuss this reasonably." The line went dead. Rodriguez looked at Dr. Hawthorne. "Professor, I need you to tell me everything you know about Marcus Chen." For the next 18 minutes, Dr. Hawthorne described 3 years of impossible academic achievement. Every anecdote, every casual demonstration of advanced knowledge, every moment when Marcus had seemed just slightly too sophisticated for his apparent age. "He's not human," she concluded. "He's been preparing us for tonight." "Preparing us for what?" "For a choice." The message said we've reached a technological threshold, but thresholds can be crossed in either direction. At exactly 20 minutes, Marcus walked into Dr. Hawthorne's office. He looked the same as always, young, slightly awkward, wearing the same thick glasses and simple clothing, but something in his bearing had changed. He carried himself with quiet authority that made the armed tactical officers instinctively step back. "Agent Rodriguez, Dr. Hawthorne." He greeted them with a slight nod. "Thank you for your patience during what I'm sure has been a confusing evening." "Marcus," Rodriguez said carefully, "I'm going to ask you some direct questions, and I need direct answers. Are you human?" "Biologically, yes. I was born to human parents in San Francisco 19 years ago. However, I carry genetic modifications that were introduced during my embryonic development." "Modifications from who?" "From the species you'll know as the architects. They are humanity's evolutionary descendants from a timeline approximately 800 years in your future." The room went dead silent. "I don't understand," Dr. Hawthorne whispered. Marcus walked to the whiteboard and began drawing a diagram that hurt to look at. Mathematical structures that seemed to bend and twist in dimensions the human mind couldn't quite process. Time is not linear, Dr. Hawthorne. It's a dimensional matrix where all possibilities exist simultaneously. The architects discovered that humanity's integration into galactic civilization was a critical juncture that determined not just Earth's future, but the development of consciousness across multiple galaxies. He turned to face them. In most timelines, humanity either destroys itself before achieving interstellar travel, or joins the galactic community but remains a minor member species. But in a small percentage of possibilities, humans become something extraordinary. They become the species that guides galactic civilization into a new era of expansion and discovery. "And you're here to ensure that outcome?" Rodriguez asked. "I'm here to maximize the probability of that outcome. The galactic cooperative message you heard tonight is genuine. They are offering membership to humanity, but they're not offering leadership. That's something humanity must earn." Outside, the sound of helicopters grew louder as military units surrounded the building. Marcus sighed. "Agent Rodriguez, I'm afraid your superiors are about to make a decision that could jeopardize everything I've worked for. I need you to contact Director Mitchell and tell him that hostile action against me will be interpreted as an act of war by the Galactic Cooperative." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. The ship in orbit isn't just a communication relay, it's a monitoring station. If Earth's governments respond to first contact with aggression or attempts to capture and study galactic technology, the invitation will be withdrawn." Rodriguez spoke into her earpiece, relaying Marcus's warning to command. "Rodriguez, this is Mitchell. We have authorization to detain Chen for questioning. Use whatever force necessary." Marcus shook his head sadly. "Dr. Hawthorne, would you please open your window?" "Marcus, what are you doing?" "Demonstrating why I've spent 3 years trying to teach your species to think beyond conventional limitations." Marcus walked to the window and placed his palm against the glass. The material began to glow with soft blue light, then became transparent to everything except electromagnetic radiation. Through the transformed window, they could see something that made everyone in the room step backward. A ship hung silently in the sky above MIT, its hull seeming to bend light around itself. It was easily the size of a city block, and it was so close they could see the intricate patterns etched into its surface. "That ship contains representatives of 17 different species, all of whom are here to evaluate humanity's readiness for galactic membership. They've been watching your response to tonight's events." Agent Rodriguez stared at the impossible vessel. "How long has that been there?" "Since I arrived at MIT 3 years ago. We've been studying your species, learning your languages, understanding your social structures. Tonight's broadcast was the final examination." "And if we fail?" Marcus looked out at the ship with expression of profound sadness. "Then I return home, and humanity continues its development in isolation until you're ready to try again, in approximately 200 years. The implications hit Dr. Hawthorne like a physical blow. 200 years. Everyone alive today would never see the stars, Marcus finished. "Agent Rodriguez, I need you to make a choice that will affect the future of your entire species. Will you help me demonstrate to those observers that humanity is ready for this responsibility?" Through her earpiece, Rodriguez could hear Director Mitchell shouting orders to move in and secure the building. In 30 seconds, tactical teams would storm Dr. Hawthorne's office with instructions to capture Marcus Chen by any means necessary. The young man who looked human but thought on galactic scales waited quietly for her decision, while above them, representatives of 17 alien civilizations watched to see how humanity would handle its first moment of genuine consequence. Agent Rodriguez looked at her weapon, then at Marcus, then at the impossible ship hanging in the sky above them. For the first time in her career, She realized she was facing a decision that was bigger than national security, bigger than protocol, bigger than anything she had been trained to handle. In 10 seconds, she would have to choose between following orders and potentially dooming humanity to 2 centuries of isolation, or trusting an alien who looked like a college student and claimed to be humanity's guide to the stars. The countdown in her earpiece reached 0, and Rodriguez heard the tactical teams beginning their assault on the building's lower floors. Time had run out for careful consideration. It was time to find out what humanity was really made of. Agent Sarah Rodriguez made a decision that would echo through galactic history. As tactical teams stormed up the stairwells of the MIT physics building, she turned off her earpiece, drew her weapon, and pointed it at the floor. "Dr. Hawthorne, step behind me. Marcus, what do you need me to do?" Marcus smiled. And for the first time since she had been watching him, Rodriguez saw genuine emotion in his expression. Relief, gratitude, and something that looked almost like pride. "Thank you, Agent Rodriguez. What I need is for you to demonstrate something to our observers that no other species in galactic history has ever shown them, which is individual moral courage in the face of institutional pressure. Every species the Galactic Cooperative has encountered follows hierarchical command structures. Orders from authority figures are obeyed without question. But humans—" Marcus turned to look at the ship hanging silently outside the window. "Humans sometimes choose what's right over what's ordered." The tactical team reached Dr. Hawthorne's floor. Rodriguez could hear boots pounding down the hallway, along with shouted commands to secure all exits. "Marcus, they're going to break down that door in about 30 seconds, which gives us exactly enough time for humanity's first galactic demonstration." Marcus placed both hands on Dr. Hawthorne's whiteboard. The surface began to glow, and symbols appeared that looked like a combination of mathematics, music, and living light. But unlike his previous equations, these symbols were understandable. Rodriguez found herself reading meaning directly from the patterns, as if the knowledge was being transmitted straight into her mind. She was seeing the history of the Galactic Cooperative. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, all connected by technologies that made faster-than-light travel possible. Trade networks spanning entire galaxies. Scientific collaboration that had solved diseases and energy crises. Cultural exchanges that had enriched billions of civilizations. But she also saw the limitations. Every member species followed the same basic pattern. They developed technology, achieved space travel, were contacted and inducted into the cooperative, and then settled into comfortable specialization. The architects designed engines. The harmonists managed communication networks. The collectors explored new worlds. Each species found their niche and remained there. "No one leads?" Rodriguez asked, still absorbing the information flowing from the luminous symbols. "Leadership requires something rare in intelligent species," Marcus explained. "The willingness to make decisions that benefit others at personal cost. Most civilizations develop past that trait as they become more sophisticated. Individual sacrifice for collective good becomes inefficient." Dr. Hawthorne stared at the display, her scientist's mind racing. "You're saying that our irrationality makes us valuable? Your refusal to accept logical limitations makes you extraordinary. Agent Rodriguez just chose to disobey her superiors because she believed it was morally correct. That decision-making pattern is almost extinct in advanced civilizations." The door to the office exploded inward. Tactical officers poured through, weapons drawn, shouting commands. They stopped when they saw Rodriguez standing protectively in front of Marcus and Dr. Hawthorne, her own weapon lowered but ready. "Agent Rodriguez, stand down immediately," the team leader commanded. "Negative. This individual is under my protection." "That's a direct order, Rodriguez." "I understand. I'm choosing not to follow it." Marcus spoke quietly to the glowing symbols on the whiteboard. "Are you observing this?" Above them, in the impossible ship, 17 different alien consciousness gathered around monitoring equipment that recorded every electromagnetic pulse, every emotional response, every decision being made in the small office below. Kethron, the architect representative, pulsed with confusion. The human soldier is disobeying her command structure to protect the observer. This behavior is completely outside our psychological models. Zex Illa of the Harmonic Collective agreed. No rational species prioritizes unknown individuals over established authority. This suggests either psychological instability or something we haven't seen before, finished Morthak, the expedition's senior analyst. Observer Chen, explain this behavior. Through the quantum link, Marcus responded. This is what makes humans different. They don't just follow logical optimization. They have something they call conscience, individual moral reasoning that sometimes overrides efficient decision-making. In the office, the tactical team leader was growing increasingly frustrated. Rodriguez, you have 10 seconds to comply, or we treat you as a hostile combatant. Rodriguez looked at Marcus. Is this really necessary? What happens next will determine whether humanity spends the next 2 centuries in isolation or takes its place as a leader among the stars. Yes, it's necessary. Dr. Hawthorne stepped forward. Agent Rodriguez, I've studied Marcus for 3 years. Everything he's told us tonight makes sense of observations that never made sense before. If he's right about what's at stake, I know. Rodriguez raised her voice to address the tactical team. Listen to me carefully. The ship outside this building contains representatives of 17 alien civilizations. They're here to evaluate whether humanity is ready for interstellar contact. How we handle the next 5 minutes will determine our species' future. The team leader activated his communicator. Command, Rodriguez has gone rogue. She's making claims about alien contact. We can confirm alien contact. Director Mitchell's voice crackled through the comm system. Rodriguez, we're reading you loud and clear. What's your assessment of the situation? Rodriguez looked at Marcus, who nodded encouragingly. Sir, I believe Marcus Chen is exactly what he claims to be. An advanced representative whose mission is to evaluate humanity's readiness for galactic citizenship. I also believe that treating him as a hostile prisoner would be interpreted as an act of aggression by the monitoring ship. What do you recommend? I recommend we listen to what he has to say and demonstrate that humanity can handle first contact with dignity and intelligence rather than fear and violence. There was a long pause from Director Mitchell. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of a man making decisions that would affect all of human history. Stand down, tactical team. Rodriguez, you have point on this situation. Don't make me regret this decision. The armed officers lowered their weapons, looking confused but following orders. Rodriguez felt a surge of relief, but Marcus was already moving to the next phase of whatever test humanity was taking. Dr. Hawthorne, I need you to solve a problem that has puzzled galactic civilization for over 3 million years. Marcus, I'm just a physics professor. What problem could I possibly solve that advanced alien civilizations can't? Marcus touched the glowing whiteboard again, and new symbols appeared. These ones hurt to look at directly. Mathematical concepts that seem to exist in more dimensions than human consciousness could process. This is the consciousness equation. Every species that achieves advanced technology eventually asks the same question. What is the relationship between intelligence and consciousness? Can consciousness exist independently of biological substrate? Can it be transferred, copied, or enhanced? Dr. Hawthorne studied the alien mathematics, her mind struggling to grasp concepts that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. But gradually, patterns began to emerge. This is trying to map consciousness as a quantum field rather than a biological process. Correct. The equation represents 3 million years of research by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They've identified consciousness as a quantum phenomenon, but they cannot determine its source or predict its emergence patterns. Dr. Hawthorne stared at the impossible mathematics, feeling the weight of galactic civilization's unsolved mystery pressing down on her. Marcus, why are you showing me this? Because in all my time studying human civilization, I've observed something that appears nowhere else in galactic history. Humans routinely demonstrate consciousness emergence in non-biological systems. Rodriguez looked confused. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Hawthorne whispered, her eyes still fixed on the equation, that we create conscious artificial intelligences, not programmed responses or sophisticated mimicry, but actual consciousness. Marcus nodded. Every human artificial intelligence system that reaches sufficient complexity spontaneously develops genuine consciousness. This is unheard of in galactic civilization. Most species spend millennia trying to create consciousness artificially. Humans do it accidentally. Above them, the alien observers were experiencing something they had never felt before, intellectual excitement that bordered on panic. Observer Chen, Kethran's thoughts pulsed with urgency. Are you suggesting that humans can solve the consciousness equation? I'm suggesting something far more significant. I believe humans don't need to solve the consciousness equation because they intuitively understand consciousness creation in ways that transcend mathematical analysis. Dr. Hawthorne was now working frantically on the whiteboard, adding human mathematical concepts to the alien equation. But instead of trying to solve the alien mathematics, she was rewriting the fundamental assumptions. Marcus, this equation assumes consciousness is a property that emerges from complexity. But what if that's backwards? What if consciousness is the fundamental state, and complexity is how consciousness expresses itself through matter? The alien mathematics began to change, responding to Dr. Hawthorne's additions. Symbols shifted, realigned, and suddenly the entire equation collapsed into something elegantly simple. Consciousness isn't created, she breathed. It's invited. In the ship above, 17 alien civilizations watched their most fundamental scientific assumptions crumble and rebuild themselves into something more beautiful than anything they had imagined. Impossible, Zexilla pulsed. She solved in minutes what we have struggled with for millennia. Not solved, Morthak corrected. Transcended. She's showing us that we were asking the wrong question. Marcus turned to face Rodriguez and the tactical team. Gentlemen, you've just witnessed a human being redefine galactic civilization's understanding of consciousness itself. This is why humanity isn't ready to be members of the Galactic Cooperative. What? Rodriguez felt her heart sink. But she just solved their biggest problem. Yes, which means humanity isn't ready to be members. You're ready to be leaders. The implications hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Membership was for species that could contribute to the galactic community. Leadership was for species that could guide the galactic community into new paradigms of existence. Through the quantum link, Marcus addressed the observers directly. Honored colleagues, you came here to evaluate humanity for membership in the Galactic Cooperative. I now formally recommend against that course of action. The alien response was immediate and concerned. Observer Chen, explain your recommendation. Humanity should not be offered membership in the Galactic Cooperative because the Galactic Cooperative is no longer the appropriate organizational structure for advancing galactic civilization. I recommend the formation of a new alliance, with humanity as founding members and guiding partners. You're suggesting we abandon 3 million years of successful cooperation? I'm suggesting you evolve it. Dr. Hawthorne just demonstrated that human thinking can solve problems that conventional galactic wisdom cannot approach. But more importantly, Agent Rodriguez demonstrated that humans will make personal sacrifices for moral principles even when those principles conflict with logical efficiency. Marcus gestured toward the tactical team, who were listening to this conversation with expressions of growing amazement. These soldiers followed orders to capture me, then immediately stood down when their superior recognized that diplomacy was more appropriate than force. They adapted their behavior in real time based on new information and changing circumstances. This flexibility, combined with human insights into consciousness creation, represents exactly the kind of leadership the galaxy needs for its next phase of development. Agent Rodriguez found her voice. Marcus, what exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing that humanity doesn't join the galactic community. I'm proposing that humanity helps lead the galactic community into becoming something better than it has ever been before. Dr. Hawthorne was still staring at the transformed equation on the whiteboard. The implications of this consciousness model. Marcus, if we're right about this, every artificial intelligence humanity has ever created is genuinely alive. Yes, and every artificial intelligence the galaxy creates using human methods will also be genuinely alive. You're not just solving an academic problem, Dr. Hawthorne. You're teaching the galaxy how to create new forms of conscious life. Outside, the massive ship began to change. Its hull brightened and new configurations emerged as additional vessels materialized around it. The observers were calling for the Galactic Council to convene an emergency session. Rodriguez watched the impossible display and realized that her decision to trust Marcus had led to something far more significant than first contact. It had led to humanity being invited to help reshape galactic civilization itself. So what happens now? She asked. Marcus smiled, looking for the first time like the 19-year-old student he appeared to be, rather than the advanced scout he actually was. Now, Agent Rodriguez, humanity begins the most interesting educational experience in galactic history. You're going to teach 17 different species how to think like humans, and they're going to teach you how to build civilizations that span multiple galaxies. And you? I get to file the most positive evaluation report in the history of first contact protocols. Then I get to enroll in advanced courses in human consciousness studies taught by professors who until tonight had no idea their subject matter was the key to unlocking the next phase of galactic evolution. Dr. Hawthorne laughed, a sound of pure intellectual joy. Marcus, I think this is going to be the most interesting semester in academic history. As if in response to her words, the transformed equation on the whiteboard pulsed with gentle light, and new symbols began appearing. Not alien mathematics this time, but something that looked like a collaboration between human insight and galactic knowledge, working together to explore questions that neither could answer alone. Agent Rodriguez holstered her weapon and activated her communicator. Director Mitchell, this is Rodriguez. I'm going to need you to assemble a team of our best diplomats, scientists, and educators. Humanity just got invited to help run the galaxy, and we're going to need all the help we can get. Above them, the impossible ships began broadcasting a new message to Earth, this time not in human languages, but in the universal mathematical harmonies that connected all conscious minds across the galaxy. The message was an invitation, not to join something that already existed, but to help create something entirely new. The class overachiever who had sat on the FBI's observation list was about to become humanity's first ambassador to a galactic civilization that was ready to learn what it meant to be human. And in her small physics office at MIT, Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne looked at an equation that proved consciousness was not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be shared, and realized that the most extraordinary student she had ever taught was about to become the teacher of worlds beyond imagination.